gang, this is Mike G from Mr. GTV and MrMikeGonner.com, and this is my point of view driving round sunny Rhyl at night. I used to do this as a profession for 32 years, boy and man, in a yellow van as an AA patrolman, Automobile Association, helping people in a breakdown situation. Now in my own company, Mind Focus Groups, I help people in a breakdown situation. The Mr. Mike Garner brand has gone from strength to strength as I work with energy and consciousness, and there's so many people at the moment who have got mental, emotional, physical, spiritual trauma breakdown that I'm helping them through. And as I drive round here, memory lane, having come back to the UK in May 2022, I'm reminiscing at how buzzing this promenade was. To the left we've got the seafront, to the right we used to have the fun fair, that's gone. It's all shops now, but empty. Bedsit land, a bit like Blackpool. And out of season, which is only 6-10 weeks, it's quite depressing looking at the massive investment that the local council have injected into Rhyl. Got the Sky Tower coming up, that's not worked for about 10 years. That used to be a real landmark. It just doesn't work. I don't think enough people come, it doesn't pay its way. The Sun Centre's gone. There's very little here apart from slot machines, and you know, that's got a limited appeal. I love this area. I've got some very happy family memories of coming here as a kid. Toffee apples, candy floss. It's a bit of a kiss me quick town like Blackpool. This is a bit of a Welsh golden mile, but there's not a lot of smiles in this mile. The whole area, like most of city centres, is depressed, and if you look at what's going on globally, places like this are lucky to survive. There's no industry in Wales, it's hospitality, and most of the pubs have closed. The bed and breakfasts and the hotels are struggling. People are being encouraged or forced to stay in, whether it's by legislation or just financial capability. There's just no money anymore, and I believe there'll be no money in a bit, because that's the agenda. I posted earlier on Mr. GTV that high street banks are going. It's something that was a bit of a culture shock to me when I came back from Thailand, as I say, in May 2022. I've been back about 10 months and I'm noticing a massive change in the 3.5 years that I was stuck in Thailand due to lockdown legislation. There's no flights. The prices have gone up here. I am glad to report that the petrol prices seems to be settling down a little bit, but for how long I don't know. But food's gone up. You go for a coffee and it's going to be a tenner wherever you go if you want a bit of a snack. And I'm a realist. I understand that things go up and down in price, but it's ridiculous what's actually been going on with property, fuel prices, and now energy prices. Where's it all going, eh? High street banks disappearing, I reported on that earlier. And will towns like this survive? Will Blackpool survive? Will Southport survive? Will Skegness survive? Scarborough? All these well-known beachfronts and resorts. I suppose if people can't go abroad because there's no trust in the reliability of flights, border control on strike, less flights, baggage handler strikes, and of course this whole idea of living a virtual life, that very few people now are venturing out because they've all got into a comfort zone since lockdown of staying at home. So there you go, I'm coming off the prom now, normally speaking at this time of night, 8 o'clock. Granted, it's a Tuesday, it's not a Friday or a Saturday, but there's nobody here. I've virtually got the roads to myself. And I remember as a AA patrolman, you know, you'd be doing 8-10 jobs a shift, but there's no traffic here. And it's a very windy night tonight. The weather is wet and wild. And a lot of the agenda that's being rolled out at the moment is on the back of two things, which if I mentioned I'd probably get deleted or fact checked, and you know what they are. Two of the most popular crises that are being created by the media or being reported by the media, but I think created is actually more accurate, and that's the weather situation and the other one is the health situation that everybody has been jabberooниed for. Not me. And I'm not falling for the other one, which is the weather situation globally. Choosing my words carefully, because if you look at the data, it just doesn't bear out, doesn't stand up to scrutiny. And I was listening to the news today of 650,000 excess DEA THSs, which is extremely concerning, and yet so little reporting being done by the journalists or the reporters. They are not reporters and journalists, they are repeaters. And to me, you know, if you had a dog and you took it to have a rabies jab and it had had 4 or 5 in 2 years and it still died of rabies, I'd be asking questions. I'll just leave it there. And there's supposed to be 650,000 excess mortalities in 2021, and it doesn't take a genius to look at what happened in the 2 years before 2021, the lockdown, the paper towels that we had to put on our faces, well, use that word, the lack of fresh air that we got because of those paper towels and because we weren't allowed out the house. We've just lost our resilience. And then, as we know, there's this agenda to jibber jab everybody, you know. An intelligent person has got to ask questions, and we do know that people have lost their lives, lost their jobs. Probably now with the interest rates being sky high, they'll lose their homes. It's been reported that all petrol car sales will stop in 2030 and electric cars are coming in. Well, these electric cars, as I said, my background is 32 years in the motor trade. They don't work. They just don't work. I mean, you know, they're a good city car, I suppose, but, you know, for long journeys, they don't work. There isn't the infrastructure to make them work. They're so expensive. The lithium batteries are inefficient. They're a fire hazard. It just isn't a proposition that is sensible, particularly when electricity prices are going up. A few years ago, we had to do certain things to save our granny, and now we've got to do certain things to save the grid. And in a world of smart meters where they can turn you off at peak times at the drop of the hat with you having no control over it, where do we stand when we have a car that relies on being plugged into the grid? And what rate will the electricity be at unit price? It's just so obvious that they don't want us travelling round. You know, we've got certain areas of the country now that are being trialled for electronic gates, what they call 15-minute and 30-minute towns. Google that. That's been trialled in Oxford. Now this all sounds very miserable, doesn't it? It sounds like I'm being negative. I'm just a realist. I'm not negative or positive. I'm just saying what is. I understand what's going on. Just parking up now to talk to you guys. That was your tour of Rill. That was my point of view. Here's my point of view on what we need to do. What we need to do is we need to, as a collective, that's why I've got Mr. GTV and other groups, manifest a different outcome. We need to go from this shit show, from shit to shift. And you might have decided it's not a shit show. Well, you're entitled to that, and I respect you for that opinion. You and me are we, and you are part of me, and I wouldn't insult myself, so I wouldn't insult you because you were part of me. But I believe as a collective, in the oneness, that we can shift this into something far better, that we can go from hell to heaven. But you have to wake up, guys, and realise what's going on. I'm sure if you're watching this and you're still listening to this presentation, you'll realise where I'm coming from. That I think it's mass manipulation, that it's social engineering, and there is an agenda. And it's not just a political agenda, it's a humanitarian agenda, and to a large extent it's a Luciferian satanic agenda, that this is something that is almost like we're being controlled by a cult. Talk about that at great length if you want to talk to me one-to-one. If you want to chat, I'm here for that. You've got to be careful, so careful really what you say these days. But quantumly, this is sound science, that when 33 1/3% of a population, a community, a family, a team are like-minded, then by the law of 100th monkey syndrome or tipping point, you can shift a reality. That if you had 100 mice and you took 33 of them out the box, put them in a maze and let them find the cheese that's hidden at the end of the maze, that's the prize, that those 33 educated mice put back into the box of 100, the 67 who haven't been in the maze and found the cheese, if they were put in the maze, they would go straight to the cheese, because there would be a communication. Now what's even more interesting, they've furthered those experiments and they've found that even if the mice took out of the box, out of the community, put into the maze, aren't returned to the community, that the 67, however remote they are, still within a period of time get transmitted. That the 33 mice that go through the maze radiate the information into the unified field through what's called morphogenetics, and they telepathically tell the other 67 mice where the cheese is. Now this is proven. It's called 100th monkey syndrome, because in India, if a Land Rover run over a snake, that snake in its death would warn all the other snakes. Or if a snake attacked a monkey, or if a snake was even in the field and a monkey saw it, the monkey would communicate to the other monkeys in the troop. But what's interesting is that all the other monkeys in the forest would know about the snake, even if the monkey that was calling to them was out of audible range. In other words, they didn't have to hear it, they picked it up, as I say, telepathically through vibration. And this is called 100th monkey syndrome. It's a well-known phenomenon, and it works within the human race also. That we share our consciousness. Now, if we're sharing fear, we all become fearful, which is why the media is so effective at the moment. We're all watching television. We're all listening to politicians. We need to talk to each other powerfully, positively, lovingly, and we need to project into the morphogenetic field what we want as an outcome. We don't want any more lockdowns. For me, I've never had, and I will refuse the offer of any jibber jabberoonies. I'm not going to live in fear when I've got a body that's intelligent and has got its own built-in resistance and intelligent mechanisms to cope with anything that enters it, airborne or otherwise. Choosing my words carefully here. Whatever decisions you've made, I respect. You and me, we and you are together, we're in the oneness, but, you know, parts of me in the collective have made decisions that me here in my superposition wouldn't have made for myself. I think a lot of people are now possibly regretting that decision because of data and just observation of what's happening. But those decisions that you've made can be reversed by detoxifying or fasting, doing parasitic cleanses. There's certain products that can purge your body of anything that you've ate, consumed, had put into it. And if you want to know about that, I'm here for a chat. I appreciate that this stuff is controversial, but as you've been with me on a journey tonight round Rill, the world is changing, the high street's changing, economics, finances, education is changing. Every institute in the world is being shifted, and it's all part of a central agenda. It was brought in 1999, although it's been on the cards for many decades. But in 1999, they brought out a paper called the Global Assessment for Biodiversity, which basically the World Economic Forum have picked up and been rolling out, and it started around about 2015. Most of us started to see the steps towards this shift when they introduced this recent situation where everybody had to stay at home, do this, do that, not do this, not do that. And we've got now this policing online where even I'm now having to be careful what words I choose, because there's this cancel culture. They delete you for saying anything that isn't part of the agenda. You know, all the people who they roll out as experts are handpicked, funded, and they've basically debunked and ridiculed and discredited anybody that says anything different. And, you know, the way we talk about things that were knowns in the past, they've brought out new knowns now that have never been known, which I just call bullshit. So watch this space, guys, for manifestation events where we're going to, as a collective within Mr. GTV, and hopefully you'll share it because you care, with other like-minded friends, where we need to shift using 100th monkey syndrome, using critical mass, using the power of morphogenetics, radiating a different vibration and ending up with a different creation, because we massively need to stop the rollout of what is going to become a society not for you and me, for the few, and the many will suffer. Don't suffer, guys. Step up, be a spiritual warrior, step into your power, enjoy your mind, take care. And if anything I've said is of any concern to you, I'm saying this lovingly and constructively. You might not agree, and I'm happy to listen to constructive criticism or constructive argument or constructive points of view. I'd love to know what you think about this. I'm not looking for a consensus of agreement. I don't want you to be a nodding donkey to me, and I certainly don't want you to be a nodding donkey to the government, whose agenda is to govern your mentality. So I've just pulled into a car park now. This is the car park I used to come to waiting for breakdowns as an AA patrolman in my yellow van. Don't allow any of this to give you a breakdown. I'm here to help. I am qualified, licensed, assured and accredited therapist. Trust yourself to professionals. Take care, guys. I love you all.